They, our ancestors, we are here because they were. We give them praise for their resilience, for they survived the Maafa. We are here with their spirits, and we play the drums as we call them to be with us, because we are the drum people. This piece called We Are the Drum People is a piece by C. Janine Gibbs, an ancestral member of Evergreen Productions. I give her thanks as her words are coming from my mouth. We are the drum people. We were when the blazing sun first kissed and beat upon the earth's potent black soil, and the silvery moon grew full and hung low, receptive, shedding glistening beams, and every star in the galaxy was twinkling as they vibrated messages of love, and creation rejoiced in rhythm. We were when the darkness of night was day, and the brightness of day was night, and they were one, as the earth and all within shone with reflections and shadows of the source. We were when energy, colorful and vibrant, penetrated the crust, and the wind was warm and caressingly sang a joyful song while breathing into the earth's solar plexus. We were the first fruits that burst forth from the virgin womb of humanity. We are the seeds of life's greatest romance, the sons and daughters, the inheritors of ancient wisdom. We are the drum people. We are people who love people, love God, love man, love slaves, love the slave master, now and before, love rich, love poor, love for the sake of loving. We are the earth's example of what love is. We are the believers, the miracle workers, the faith healers. We believe in spirit, believe in soul, believe in roots, believe in herbs, believe in life, believe in death, believe in rebirth, believe in our ancestors, our predecessors, believe in all the elements that surround us. We are Earth's rhythmic people. We move in unison with the cosmos as we dance the dance of life. We are people of song and dance. We dance, we sing in joy. We dance, we sing in sorrow. We dance, we sing in pleasure. We dance, we sing in pain. We worship, we dance, we sing. In ecstasy, we are the ritual makers, the celebrators. We are the sounders, people of sound. We are the flowers of the first drum song. We move to the sound of the talking drum.
Yes.
The village drum, bongo drum, tango drum,
Yes.
voodoo drums, goombay drum,
Yes.
reggae drum, calypso drums,
Yes.
bamboo drums, drums in steel, in pan, mellow drums, calendo drums, rumba drums, conga drums, jazz, blues drums, soul drums, drums in our soul, in our blood. We are people here for a reason.
Yes.
People for all seasons.
Yes.
We are the proclaimers, the boss. We are the immortals, timeless voice. The laughter, the tears, the hopes and the fears, the emotions. We are reflecting mirrors of the universe.
Yes.
We are the drum people, the nucleus.
Yes.
We were yesterday. We are today. We will be tomorrow and always. The drum people. The drum people. The drum people. Ashe.
Our ancestors a cool drink of water to refresh them, to show our gratitude for their service. Ago, ago, ago. Tridium ponquame micherio ensa, asasaya. Ensa. Ahumniaham. Ensa. All of our ancestors who made and traversed the Middle Passage, we say, Ensa, take a drink. We thank you for your service. We thank you for your deciding to live, that we might live. We give you thanks for showing us the way. Ensa, take a drink. Ensa, we ask for your presence. Ensa. Come with us and stay with us this evening.
Ashe.
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 Transgenerational, epigenetic trauma. Trauma can leave chemical markers on a person's genes. The chemical markers don't directly damage the gene, modify it, or mutate it, but instead it will alter the activation of a person's gene. Chemical markers can be passed down to subsequent generations, what we would call a generational curse.
Every time I see young brothers acting up and acting crazy, not just young brothers, but young sisters, I just tell myself and reflect on this information. I love my people, I love my people. Every time white supremacists see that behavior, they're giving them a standing ovation. So restoring this memory and collective identity is absolutely essential, not only for us to get a good identity of who we are, but for us to heal. After we heal, we don't just leave it there. This has been massive historic trauma that's happened to our people. How do we repair the harm? It's not just someone giving us something. We need to be actively engaged in repairing that harm as well. These griots, if you will, they can recite hundreds of years of history without missing a beat consistently every time. I had a situation today, actually. I wanted to wear this particular t-shirt. I said, what do I do with that thing? I was just looking all over, and I was wearing it. So my memory has been damaged, right? But it's been shown in these oral societies that those people have incredible memories. Everyone in the society have incredible memories. So these oral traditions is very important as we go about reconstructing collective memory because it connects us to events that we as a group experienced in the past. The United Nations, UNESCO organizations identified the importance of cultural heritage.
Cultural heritage includes the irreplaceable cultural objects and collective memory of a community as important sources of its history and culture, particularly of its identity. It includes the material and immaterial.
Not just material things. Look at those human remains that's on the bottom of the seabed as well. If we're not connected to this ancestral memory, our identity is out of focus. We don't know who we are. It's like we're walking around with a big hole in our soul that needs to be filled. We medicate on all sorts of things to deal with the stress, from alcohol to abusing each other, etc., etc. What we're trying to do in our work, get beyond the amnesia, get beyond the silence and the shame, and put this information back in our collective memory, and it will determine, in many cases, dictate the way we behave. So what happened to us was the Great Maafa, this incredible disaster that we're still trying to recover from to this very day. Slavery, quote, it's not where our history started. It interrupted our history. Incredible interruption. I'm totally decolonizing my vocabulary, and the word slave is no longer in it. And sometimes I have to use it just for clarity, but consciously it's no longer in my vocabulary, right? And we should make this explicitly clear. When Europeans went into Africa, they didn't capture slaves. They captured mamas, daddies, griots, philosophers, craftsmen, blacksmiths, even little children, nephews, brothers and sisters. That's critically important to say that. So our ancestors was never slaves. They were enslaved by this global system of white supremacy that's still dominating our lives now. And that's a whole nother discussion we might can have. This was the largest movement in the history of humanity. Nothing else compared. This should be global knowledge. But we see what's happening in the reverse in Texas and Florida. It's been happening consistently all the time. Okay? So these people are desperate. They are fearful of this information. And our awareness of that information and the transformation that happened because of our awareness of that information. They would have no one else to oppress. So we know this enslavement era, there was a lot of terror, murder, and torture. But more importantly, there was resistance. We have to keep that ideal of resistance in mind. These people weren't just passive participants. They resisted on the continent of Africa. They resisted at the coastline. They resisted coming across the water. They resisted when we got here in the U.S. And so we need to continue to tell those stories of resistance. Merriman, Masabane is the main character of this story. He resisted a vessel and took it over, but they were actually captured, and he lost his life on it. I just came back from Mozambique and made an incredible find. A vessel that went down had 700 of our ancestors on it. It was trying to get to Brazil, and the brothers said, oh no, they revolted. And when they revolted, by divine intervention or whatever, a storm came up. And the crew lost control of the vessel. It ran into the reef. Unfortunately, about 400 of those went down in that incident. That's just one of many. This is Simbe Pai. Joseph Sunken, as his culture was taken away from him. On the Amistad, resisted. Nat Turner resisted. Queen Nani of Jamaica. In Brazil, Zumbi of Palmares resisted. This resistance story needs to be remembered.
something I never heard. Every time it popped, my brother fell. Every time it popped, my sister fell. You came with your spitfire killing stick. You came with your spitfire killing stick. Now my land is your land. Now my gold is your gold. Your culture is my culture. My countries are your countries. You came with your spitfire killing sticks. Yes, you came with your spitfire killing stick. I know your spitfire killing stick now. Yes, I know your spitfire killing stick now. Watch me kill my brother. Watch me kill my sister. Watch me kill my leaders. Watch me kill my culture. You came with your spitfire killing stick. You came with your spitfire killing stick. Spitfire. Killing stick. Spitfire. Killing stick. Spitfire. Killing stick. Spitfire. Killing stick. Thank you.
Systematic economic changes were essential for the rise of capitalism. Each phase of the process, from exploration to settlement to production to trade and the construction of a new economic order, required massive fleets of ships and the capacity to transport both expropriated laborers and the new commodities. The Guineaman was a linchpin of the system.
Give me some context here. How many ships was involved in that trade? Over 12,000. Out of those 12,000, they made some 40,000 voyages across the Atlantic. And we know for sure, based on the historical record and some archaeological work, that some 1,021 was involved in wrecking events. That is, they wrecked. But of those that is wrecked, we only know about 15 of those vessels. 15 out of 12,000. About 8 of them has been archaeologically documented, and I've worked on 5 of those. This was a transoceanic trade, not just in the Atlantic, but the Indian Ocean as well. It involved some 12 to 15 million Africans. Academics say it was 12.4, but we know it was many, many more than that. The number that I work with is getting close to some 20 million people. Dr. John Henry Clark said it was 60 million. So we know it was much more than 12.4 million. Actually, these captains of those 12,000 vessels, a lot of them, we're finding in the historical record, they would tell the investors, I went and picked up 300 Africans and I sold them for this amount. Actually, he picked up 350, and the extra change went in his pocket. This was mafia work. So we need to focus on these vessels and tell their story. So you heard of the Zong? The captain misnavigated. He was trying to get to Jamaica and found that he couldn't get back, and so he threw individuals overboard. They tried to collect insurance when he pulled into port into Jamaica. The Guerrero is another story, and that's another incident of throwing Africans overboard. The Lucerne was a Dutch West Indian Company vessel. It was a massive vessel. It had about 700 Africans on it, trying to get into Suriname. The captain misnavigated and went up the wrong river, and he was coming out. A storm came up again. He saw that he was going to lose the vessel. He dropped the anchor on the bow. The boat swung around, slammed into the reef, and began to sink. He knew he was going to lose the vessel. He told his crew to abandon ship before it sank. However, before he told them to abandon ship, he told them to lock down the hatches of 700 Africans in the hold of the vessel. And so as the vessel broke up over 2 or 3 days, how can you swim in shackles, even if they could swim? dastardly deeds here. This is just one story. This is one ship of the how many? Of the 12,000. The Sao Jose. This is the vessel that we worked on off the coast of South Africa. And just to show their attitude, he decided to save the so-called slaves and the people, how he separated the so-called slaves from being human. He talked about how many died there and what happened during the event, but he gave us an indicator where it was located under the Lion's Head. This monument here is called the Lion's Head. This is Cape Town here. This is Cherry Rock here. And Clifton Beach has all these luxury condos. Sao Jose remains lie here, 100 feet or so off the beach. And so the remains of 212 of our ancestors that went down on this wreck. This shows you where those individuals originated from. Mozambique, was going around the Cape, and this is Cape Town down here, and that's where it wrecked. This is Mozambique Island here. This is Musaril Bay, and this is Musaril District. That's what those individuals embarked on the ship, the Sao Jose. This is called the Ramp of the Slaves. This is the last visual the people had of their homeland, looking back at it. This is an elder of that village. In African cosmology, when you're disconnected from your ancestors, you're walking around misguided and lost. And we told him that we found his ancestors, and that was a profound moment, to say the least. And so we spent a whole day celebrating with these people. And then at the end, he reached down and got some earth from his village and put it in this vessel here. He gave that to Lonnie Bunch. Lonnie Bunch gave it to me, and he instructed us to take this dirt back to that wretched vessel and bring our people back home. We went back to Clifton Beach on this day. It was pressed all over the world. We wanted to dive it, but the seas was very, very rough. And so we waited out as far as we can go. And we did the ritual to honor and acknowledge them by depositing that dirt. And this is representation of the diaspora. She is a Makua. Most of the people on the wreck were Makua. This is Yara. This is Tara, the young lady you saw earlier from South Africa. And that's me we are representing the diaspora. And so we did this ritual to honor that. And we went back to the village and told them that we had fulfilled this mission. Took a breath. And he said, now the rains that falls from the sky is like the tears of our ancestors fertilizing our land all over again. Today, this moment, there's over 2 million African bones on the Atlantic seabed. Over 2 million. But anyone never ritualistically said, rest in peace. When I dive in that water, I hear their voices screaming. They want to speak through me or speak through us, that we are still here. We need to be acknowledged. How do we memorialize those individuals?
When the night has come and the land is dark and the moon is the only light we see. No, I won't be afraid. No, I won't be afraid. Just as long as you stand by me. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm going to do a piece by Maya Angelou for Old Black Men, along with The Mask by Paul Laurence Dunbar. Won't you stand by me? Whoa, stand by me. Oh, stand by me. Stand by me. Stand by me. When I think about my life, I nearly laugh myself to death. My life has been one great big joke. A dance that's walked, a song that spoke. I laugh so hard I nearly choke when I think about myself. 70 years in these folks' world, you see, and the child I works for calls me girl. I say, ha, ha, ha. Yes, ma'am, for working's sake. You see, I'm too tired to bend and too poor to break, so I laugh. I laugh until my belly aches when I think about myself. My folks can make me split my side. The lie, the tales they tell sound just like lying. You see, they grow the fruit, but I eat the rind. Hee hee. I eat the rind. So I start to laugh until I start to cry when I think about myself, my folks, and the little children. Hee hee. Hee hee. Hee hee. You see, we wear the mask, the grins and lies, and shades our cheeks and it hides our eyes. You see, this price we paid for human guile, with torn and bleeding hearts, we smile. And mouth the myriad of subtleties. Now, why should the world think otherwise when counting all our tears and sighs? Nay, let them only see us why. We wear the mask. We wear the mask. We smile, but oh my God, our tears to thee from tortured souls arise. And we sing, oh baby, we sing. We sing. This is a man's world. This is a man's world. Ooh. But it ain't nothing. I say it's nothing without a woman or a girl. Yeah, I told you, we sing. We sing. But the clay is bowed beneath our feet and long the mile. But let the world, 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 let the world sing otherwise while we wear the mask. They smile to hide their crying. They shuffle through their dreams. They stepped and fetched the country and they broke the blues and screams. I understand their meaning. It couldn't be derived from living on the edge of death. They kept your race alive by wearing the mask. They wore the mask, y'all. They wore the mask. They wore the mask. They wore the mask. I won't cry. I won't cry. No, I won't shed one tear. Not as long as you stand by me. Come on, y'all. Whenever with the shadow will you stand?
If you ever go down to Key West, please visit Higgs Beach. There's over 300 Africans buried on that beach. It was only discovered in 2002. And they've been buried there for almost 200 years while people are suntanning and doing whatever. The National Association of Black Scuba Divers, I'm the immediate past president of that organization. We put down a memorial on the Henrietta Marie, a wreck that went down off the coast of the Florida Keys. It had deposited about 300 Africans into Jamaica, was trying to take those ill-gotten gains back to Europe. And as it departed the Keys, a storm came up, and it sunk in that storm. A treasure hunter was looking for a Spanish galleon. It had about $400 million in gold on it. He wasn't looking for a, quote, slave ship. He was looking for all that gold, right? He was a treasure hunter. But he stumbled upon the Henrietta Marie. And he told us about it, and I said, oh, no, we're going to need to do something here, bro. And so we put this memorial down on it. I was trained by Dr. Albert Jose Jones. He led that effort back in 1992. If you know Dr. Jones, he's an incredible individual. He's trained probably 6,000 people of African descent how to scuba dive. You know how much he charged all those people? Not one red cent. So Dr. Jones is on African American actually at this point. Has been inducted into the International Divers Hall of Fame. That puts him into context. This is just some indicators of some of the data or information. You can see here all the perpetrators of the crime against humanity, but Portugal here was one of the major ones. In the latter part of the 18th century, they moved almost 4 million individuals just in about 25 or 30 years. Can you imagine that? I just got back from Lisbon, Portugal, and there is not one memorial memorializing the transatlantic so-called slave trade in Portugal. But yet, if you go down on the riverfront, they have this massive 150-foot granite, a monument, if you will. It's massive, memorializing Henry the Navigator and their explorations of the world. It's an incredible story. Importation of so-called slaves was abolished in 1808 in this country. This racist Timothy Meare made a bet that he could pull it off and embarrass the North. This is Captain William Foster. After he brought into the country up Mobile River, he was instructed to take the vessel further up the river and burn it and to destroy it so the Federals didn't have any evidence on it. He did set it afire, but before it completely burned, it sank into the Mobile River. The descendants of the Clotilda has established a town called Africa Town. Right after emancipation, they went back to Timothy Meare. They own a lot of property down there, influential in Mobile, and say, please give us some land so we can continue our lives. Say, Negroes, y'all crazy? Just totally ignored them. So in 1867, they pooled their resources and actually had to buy land from the dude that brought them over here. At the height of Africa Town, when it was a vibrant community, there was about 14,000 citizens living in Africa Town. Yeah, this was during the 50s and the 60s, the 40s, 50s, and 60s, yeah. And then the city of Mobile annexed that space and brought it under the purview of Mobile. The state of Alabama totally decimated the community by putting this state highway right down through the middle of the community. Separated a church from its cemetery. They rezoned the area as commercial and started putting these paper industries, these metal industries, these wood industries, and they have encirculated Africa Town. In 2018, this white reporter, and he got the whole Descendant community excited, thought he had found it. There's still a very powerful Descendant community down there. And so they called us up. We need some people to look at this. And so we went down there and looked at it and said, no, this is not it. It can't be. It's too big and so forth. There were some other indicators as well. And the Descendant community started calling it the no-tilda. So we went back and took some high technology equipment down there, side scan sonars, magnetometers, sub-bottom profilers, etc. And we found the location right here where this marker is. Timothy Meare has a little shack here. And that's the property marker right where the Clotilda lie. The bow was pointing upriver, okay? And it's laying on an embankment under the river, about 10 feet off the riverbank. So it's as shallow as 8 feet to 20 feet. So depth is not the only thing we had to deal with when we were diving that. There's a lot of water mosquitoes in the water too. And we saw a few of them flipping around. That was the best water that we saw since working on this was about 3 inches. We went meticulously, almost inch by inch. There's a lot of hazards down there. Real pointed edges of the ship that has deteriorated, some metal pieces and so forth. So we knew for sure what we had. This is the registration of the vessel. This is what we found, and it lined up exactly up to that registration. The type of wood it was, there was some burning indications, sunken 20 feet of water. So this is the latest image. You can see on that other one there's a lot of trees and debris on the wreck. These big trees, this tree, that's about 60 feet long, about a 3 diameter tree that's rammed into the wreck. There's some disarticulated members of the wreck. That's what it looks like now. So we sort of cleaned up the space so we can actually dive into it and do some more archaeological work. This is a sonar image of the Clotilda. And it makes this vessel extremely important. Why? How many vessels was involved in the trade? This is the only one where you can actually see the vessel. See the outlines of the ship. You see it there, right? So there's very clear. And you can see the compartments in the vessel. But more importantly, this is the space here where 110 of our ancestors endured the crossing of the Atlantic. It actually exists. In no other place in the world does such a space exist. It's a space about 26 by 18, about as big as just you all here. 110 people for 2.5 months, along with the space of the vermins and everything that left their bodies, etc., and the turbulence of the voyage, etc. It was in that space right here. So I dove into that space. But I knew from the experience of diving on the Sao Jose that it was going to be a very challenging dive. So we composed an ancestral prayer. Beloved ancestors, your voices have been quiet for 162 years, but your silence ends now. Your voices and memory are lifted now from this wretched vessel through us, and we welcome you to speak through us. Our connection will never be broken. We are because of you. Thank you for reaching out to us. Blessings to your spirit always. And so that's me getting ready to dive on the wreck. I have over 1,400 dives, and I know something about being stable in the water. But once I went into that space, I was tossing and tumbling for about 15 seconds. Couldn't get my balance. And I took it as the ancestor speaking to me. This is what it was like, somewhat. But we're just giving you a taste of it. We extracted 94 artifacts from that site. Only about 4 are going to be placed in the museum. This is a part of the side of the Clotilda where we're absolutely sure some of our ancestors touched. So embedded in that artifact is tremendous energy and voices that reverberates when we touch it and analyze it. So how do those voices speak to us? The so-called spiritual dimensions in assessing these artifacts. A sister at Hampton University wrote this book, probably the best, Natalie Robinson. Another one of interest, this one by Zora Neale Hurston, called Barracoon. There's only 2 types of people in the world, right? Scuba divers and those who soon will become scuba divers. Right? It's diving with purpose. We work with dive instructors all over the country with the National Association of Black Scuba Divers. For about a week, we immerse them in techniques. We do it on the land first before we push them off the boat. And then we actually go underwater and start doing the documentation. Our primary mission is to train certified divers how to dive on these vessels, document them, and raise these stories up off the seafloor. So what we do is engage the archives. There's a lot of terrestrial work that has to be done before we actually do the diving. And we decide which one is more accessible. Each one of these ships is an incredible amount of money to do this work. So we look at, what is accessible. Some of these wrecks are in parts of the ocean that is very treacherous, and whether we can get permits to work on them. There's a whole host of things that determine what ones we decide to work on. Like there's several of them in Cuba. The Wanderer that I mentioned was the next to the last. It sunk off the eastern coast of Cuba. We know it's there. One of Marcus Garvey's vessels is on the northern coast near Matanza. So it's going to be a challenge to get down there and do that work, although we was there in July of last year, I think it was. But we need to do that groundwork first and then decide what's the best ones to start to work on. Y'all know our relationship with water. And it's costing us lives, actually, as I stand here. The age group between 5 and 18 is leading the statistics in drowning. Why? Simply because they don't know how to swim, a very basic skill set. So if you got young people in your lives, please, if nothing else, just teach them the basic skill of how to survive in the water. We have a youth program where we train these young people, particularly those youth in Africa town. Can you imagine when that young man dived into that space that I dove in? That's where his direct ancestors came from. We're creating, hopefully, some awareness in these young people, and they carry that forward. This is the March 2022 issue of National Geographic's. On the cover is Tara Roberts. She just came to us. We trained her how to scuba dive, and she got incredibly excited about it, and she went about the work. She had basically, how the young folks said, blew up. Blew up DWP. The film Descendant, the work on National Geographic. She's the first African-American woman to be on that Geo cover. So this was supposed to have been the cover. So when the photo was submitted, they looked at it, and you can see her mask there is fogged up. So they tried to redeem themselves and gave me the centerfold. Standing next to me is another brilliant young scholar. These young brothers and sisters are doing some incredible things. They're doing work all over the world. We collaborate with National Museum of African American History and Culture, with NOAA, the Society of Black Archaeologists. It was doing what's called terrestrial archaeology, digging around and so forth. Hey, man, y'all need to get in the water. But the serious work needs to be done. And so they're doing some incredible stuff now down in the Caribbean, St. Croix, and a few other places. It's a great collaboration. DWP is continuing this work. We want to do more work on the Guerrero, the Wanderer, which was next to the last vessel that brought over 400 Africans into Jekyll Island, Georgia. That's another incredible story. The Aurora of Mozambique, the Lucent. More importantly, we know where a couple of the vessels of the Black Star Line. And Dr. Julius Garvey has given us permission to find those vessels and tell that story. So I'll leave you with that. So thank you so very much. If you want to get in touch with us, you can. Thank you.
Fire, killing stick. When I take my shirt off, you will know me. Set 11, running around, racing to work, running around, racing to work, running around, racing to work, running around, racing to work. On fire, on fire, on fire, on fire, on fire, on fire. I'm on fire. Malcolm X is here, and I'm on fire. Walter Rodney is here, and I'm on fire. On fire. Malcolm X is here. Du Bois, Carver, Booker T is here, and I'm fire. Shaka is here, and I'm on fire for oneness, unity, and liberation, 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 on fire, on fire, on fire, on fire, on fire. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause for Evergreen Productions.